Um, look, I want to say a few words. My name's Steve Garrett. If you don't know me, I'm Steve Garrett. We're here because we're trying to celebrate Dave Worland right there. And yes, that's right. That's right. And I'd like to tell a quick little story to how we get here. Uh, 5 years ago, I lost my leg. That was my fault. Diabetes. Now, today, I'm better health than I was 15 years ago because the good Lord took something from me to wake me up, okay? And He did the job quite well. So, in that process, I also lost my ex. And then a year later, I'm kind of working on some depression. I got nothing going on in my life, and I lost my leg. But I don't, if you know me, sitting around doing nothing ain't happening. So I'm trying to fight through this, and then all of a sudden, the glory days appeared. Okay? And boy, did that change Steve Garrett. Okay? I mean, thank God, John Mullen and Toad, thank God for what you did because it brought my life back to me. I don't know about you folks, but wow. And it gave me a new spirit in life, and just so coincidental, I'm not ashamed to say I came to the Lord. I spend now every Wednesday and every Saturday, except for today, at Bible study. And for 2.5 years. So then, after the glory days, I get to know Andy Idle again. Jeff Purdue. Dave Worland. All you folks that meant so much to me and Dave, because I'm going to tell you, Dave and I then, after the glory days, started having lunch. Like every 2 months, we would have lunch, and it was awesome. We'd same old spot. We would talk about the good old days. And we coached together for three different schools. You know how many schools got into conversation when we were having lunch? One. Never any other school. WC. We spend 2 hours talking about the good old days, about the names of kids and players and family, friends. So it was between the good Lord inspiring me with the glory days and getting back with Dave, and then all of a sudden I thought, my God, I don't want to embarrass him, but I'm going to. I'm going to tell you something. As I researched and talked to Dave about what he did when we were apart and when he moved on away from me and coaching, his career just kept incredible. And I know that we're not here necessarily to talk about Dave as a principal in Indianapolis Cathedral or as administrator for the IHSAA, but we should be, because I'm telling you folks, he inspired so many people, not just in this room. I wish everybody that he inspired in his life were able to be here. But you're here, and we're here to say thank you to Dave. And I mean that with all my heart. And more importantly, I'm going to get in trouble for saying this, Dave, I know. But we had a conversation a couple of weeks ago or whatever, I don't remember. But, his family. When you're a principal, a coach, when you're a basketball coach in Indiana, you care. You're at home, not at home a lot. You're working even in the summer, getting their team ready for the. So between that, being a principal, and doing beyond extra duties, IHSAA, and I'll read all this later. But the fact is that Dave mentioned to me that he was away from his family a lot. But he was doing a job that was incredible influenced a lot of people. If there were, and I'm not gonna regret saying this, but if there were if there is a living saint, they were. No, I'm not joking.
Did you hear that, Jim?
I'm serious. And here's what we're going to do. You know what, folks, and to finish the story, when I had lunch with him one day about 6 months ago, I went home and I'm not kidding you, and the good Lord, because I was really into the Lord at that time, and I still am, the good Lord He don't talk to my head, He enters my heart. And I'm telling you, for days, weeks, He kept telling me, you need to do what you're doing tonight, Steve. I've been running this 6 months. But God bless a lot of you guys out there that have been helping. It was a secret at one time. But it broke loose. But the fact is that a lot of people helped. I asked a lot of people, players, Andy, ex-coaches, people. It's my idea that we should be celebrating Dave for what he has done for Washington County. Because you know what, folks, you may disagree with me, and I think the world of John and Toby and Alan McDonald that played later when Dave was gone. But I'm telling you something. If I know anything, I know basketball. There was never the man was an organizer, the planner. And he made sure that when he left, that the thing was going to go on. Many coaches, coach and go, couldn't care less about the future. Not Dave. So those guys that got into the semi-state in the Washington Catholic Hall of Fame, those guys are incredible. But you know what? I knew that when they were in the first, second grade, when they come to the summer camp, 4 years of every summer. We had a summer camp for the players for a month. You don't hear of that. That's impossible. But we had it a month. And like those guys right back there that went into the semi-state there, they couldn't wait to get to that camp. And we couldn't wait to have them there. They brought enthusiasm to me. Those two guys used to play at halftime at the home JV games. Their team, when they were like third, fourth graders. And I could not wait to come out of that locker room and have to kick their butts off the floor. Because boys and girls, they did not want to leave. They were, and I knew, he knew, we all knew, they were going to be special. But I'm telling you something. Some of them wouldn't have been in this program. I know that. I'm going to tell you right now. I know when I was here with Dave, one of my good friends was Toby Madison's father. And we were pretty close. And he made it very clear to me that if Dave wasn't here, they were going to Vincennes. Thank God that Dave came here, because not only that, but I've heard other parents tell me their kid would have been going up the street. No need for that. Dave came. It was a blessing from God, and it made the glory days. You have no idea, when you look at the stats like I have for the last 4 months in this book, you have no idea how incredible that glory day span was. You'd have no idea when it comes to basketball. Okay? No idea. Incredible. And you know what? I'm telling you this, and we're going to hear hopefully this tonight, but it wasn't because of Dave and people saying, well, Coach Garrett, you were important. No Dave Worland, no Steve Garrett. Okay? He had an amazing way of hiring people, bringing in people that coached those kids, making sure he knew how to build a system. Mike Witchman. Oh, Lord, Charlie Evans. But he was the architect, I like to call it. Because I've had months to think about this. Incredible. And he was a reason for the glory days. Because he built the house to last a long time. He didn't build a cheap house. He built a strong foundation. Okay? So that's why we're here. Now, what I'm gonna do is, cause I'm kinda lazy, and I'll tell you right now, folks, this chair is going home with me. When I first came in here, nobody's in here, I found this chair, sit down in it. I haven't moved, and I'm not gonna move. Nice. I pretty much could buy this if somebody will let me buy it tonight. But I'm telling you, I'm gonna sit here, and I'm going to announce people that are gonna speak. I've worked months on this, and the 10 people that I have, and look, here's the difference. If you want to speak beyond after that, please, if you're a parent, family, because the fact of the matter is, this program didn't get great because of just Dave. But the fans, incredible. The parents, unbelievable. The players, incredible work ethic. I don't know where, we often talk to each other when we have that lunch. This was the perfect storm. It's never going to happen again in many, incredible experience here. Everybody was working for the same cause. You don't find that. I've been to places, I'm not going to name names, where, this group sitting in the section up there, they're from this town. This group over there is this town. Across the sections of people that are for the same program, not on the same page. Not here. That's what it became successful. That's what built up to the glory days. So Dave was the architect, and we want to speak about tonight about that. And if you feel free later on, whenever our people are done speaking, please say something. I had one young lady, tell me that she has always wanted to say something today, publicly, and now's your chance tonight. So we'll see how this goes. All right, first of all, and look, folks, I'm new at this. I ain't never doing this again. It's not my specialty. That's why I've told 1,000 people, my respect for Toby and John Mullen and putting this glory thing together is incredibly higher than it ever was. Because I've been working on this now. It would have helped if I lived in Washington, which I'm trying to do, but being that 2 hours away, it's been tough. But a lot of people help, but bear with me because I'm new at this totally. First, what we're going to do is have people come up and speak. They're going to come up here and stand in front and speak and say something that how he affected their life. I don't know what they're going to say. I hope it's good. The first speaker is going to be Bill Brown. If you will come up here, Bill, and speak. Bill Brown, Mr. As we know him in Washington Catholic history, Mr. Defense.
Okay, first of all, can you hear me fine without the microphone?
Okay, I didn't know that. Maybe I don't need that either.
The other thing is, as I'm getting old and have to wear glasses, I kind of wrote a speech out because my wife will tell you that I tend to ramble on for a long time if I don't, so she warned me, do not do that.
I'm sorry. See, I made a mistake, and I'm going to do this right. Bill Brown graduated in 1982. He's in the top. 1982. He's in the top. He is in the top 30 in career scoring at WC. He got a scholarship 4 years at Oakland City. So I'm supposed to do these things. And he scored over 1,000 points at Oakland City. Yeah. But he also came back and coached freshman basketball, and assistant at the varsity and varsity. So he came back and into the program. That's one of the reasons. While Mr. Bill Brown is speaking, I'm sorry. I owe you your due, so go ahead. All right.
First of all, I want to recognize my wife, Michelle, and my daughter, Olivia.
There you go.
Olivia came home from Louisville just for this. My son and his wife had a baby shower today. They're expecting their 5th child, and the end of this month, be our first granddaughter. So we're excited about that. But you know, it's an honor to be asked to come here and talk about Coach Worland. I could sit here and talk about it forever. And but I'm gonna try to keep it short and sweet because my wife kind of gave me a bunch of crap today. So, you know, we're here tonight to honor a man who has impacted so many lives. Man who I have respected and admired ever since I've met him. It's no secret that before he came, I was getting ready to transfer to Washington. People have asked me a lot of people have asked me what made me stay here. And the answer is pretty simple. It was about a 10-minute conversation with him. And I can't pinpoint any one thing he said that made me stay. You know, it could have been the fact he told me, hey, you got to average 20 points a game for us to be successful. Hey, green light, baby. So, or, you know, don't worry about defense. Now, my favorite one about defense, though, is Coach told me, do not get in foul trouble. Well, how do you stay out of foul trouble? Don't guard anybody. Okay, so, you know, Coach Garrett could give me all kinds of crap about that, you know, but I did what I was told. But really, you know, I can't pinpoint any one thing. I just know that after meeting with him when he got the job, I walked out and was like, that's the guy I want to play for. And, you know, he was a perfect hire at the perfect time because I really, truly believe, and you kind of stated it, if he doesn't get the job, we don't go on that 12-year run that we had of success. It just doesn't happen. I really, truly believe that. He took over a team that was 4-17 my junior year. And we had 2 returning varsity players with any varsity experience back, you know. And he led us to a 12-11 season, first winning season in 7 years. And you know, we ended up getting beat by Lagodi, who was undefeated that year, got beat by them in the final game of the sectional. I'll never forget the first summer that he was here. You know, we come in, everybody's fired up, you got everybody coming in, we're play pickup games. We start at 6 o'clock, play till about 8:30 or so. And I would always stay afterwards. And I'd stay and shoot. And you know, that was back in the days, unless your name was Jack Butcher, you were not allowed in the gym with your players. So coach is back in his office, back away from everybody. And I'd be in there till 10 o'clock at night shooting on my own. And then coach would come walking out, hey, sister called, gotta shut the lights off. And, you know, he allowed me to do that. And I know, you know, he was in his mid-20s. He had a lot of things he could have been doing. It would have been a lot more fun than sitting in that office while I shout around. But he allowed me to stay in the gym all the time. And that meant a world to me. And so if you've never had a chance to sit down and talk to him, you know, take 10 minutes and sit down. And when I was coaching at Washington Catholic, he came back and spoke to one of my teams. And I told all the kids that, if you get a chance, sit down, spend 10 minutes with him. And, you know, you'll understand why he means so much to not only me, but so many people. And, you know, if you've had that chance to sit down and talk to him, then you know why I respect and admire him so much. And so I'm going to cut it there, but Coach, you're the best.
Thank you. Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Thank God. Next up is, you know, yeah, that's right, you're coming, buddy. A good friend. When Dave and I were here, we had 2 really special friends. That young man right there and Tom Tucker. Very special. A little quick story about Morris. He was my, come on up there. Morris was really my JV assistant. Tom was the varsity assistant. Well, it didn't matter because it was all together. And I'm going to tell you something. At one point in time, my first year coaching JV, I was kind of wild, okay? I got 10 technicals my first year. You people, I don't know if you understand, 10 technicals is a lifetime. for coaching. And then he wasn't around me. Next year, him and Tom came into our program. And this man taught me more about coaching basketball than people, and I've never told you that. Because I knew the game. I knew the game like you can't believe. But you can't be crazy. He taught me the calmness while he's on the bench with me. At practice, take a breath. And it made me much better. All right, Morris, come on. And I just want you to know that the last thing is, come on up here, I want you to know. Every game when we came home from a road trip or after a home game.
Don't tell him that.
Wait a minute. I'm just going to tell them that we, as a part of our celebration, me, Dave, Tom, and Morris, we always took a ride and listened to our favorite song before we got to the club. It was tradition. Paradise by the Dashboard Light. Every time we won, we got into the van and drove down the club. We took a long trip to here. Stop right there. And so I want you to know that was, am I right, Dave? 100%. Every time we come to the club. All right, Morris Petty, folks.
Call me a young man, I'm about to have a stroke. I'm old. Okay, I look around. There's a few older people, not very many. I know I'm in the top 10. I'm so old that when I was in grade school, there were no history classes.
Good Lord.
Okay, when I first talked to Dave, I didn't meet him. He told me one night, I'm sitting at home, and this guy called me. I don't know who the hell he is. He said, "This is Dave Worland, the new basketball coach at Washington. I'm looking for a volleyball coach." I said, "What?" I don't know anything about volleyball, and I didn't. But we won't talk anymore about my volleyball coaching career. It's good about that. But if he ever asked you to do anything, you did it. Just the way it is. You did it. Let's see if I can. What else I got here? Well, when I got into the basketball program, I'd go to practices, and you could tell right in the beginning that we might have something good happen. Kids we had good kids, hard-working kids. They liked what they were doing, and Dave and Steve they were musicians, really. Dave was organized, and Steve was kind of mean, so it all worked out. A few little things, little famous things or whatever, but the L&M game, everybody that's a WC fan remembers the L&M game. And then there were other things. He was always had to be at the game an hour before the JV game. We'd leave way too early every time. But first time we went to Lagodi. We played Lagodi, Jack Butcher. That's another story. But Jack Butcher, we went into the gym and he met Dave and he said, "Come on, I'll take you, I'll let you tour the school and show you our offices and all that." So we did. The game got started. And Dave liked to roam. He'd get up and walk up and down. He got a little bit too close to Butcher at some point. Remember this? Oh yeah. And Butcher said, "Sit down, you big dumb." And I can't tell you where it starts with a C and it's pretty long. I just figured it out. So, anyway, that's what happened. And they turned to us at the bench and tried to give me a look. I said, "Yeah, that's nothing for Jack." So yeah, but we had some great times. And some I can't talk about. But,
Yeah.
Yeah, it was all good. What else have I got? Oh, that's about it. He was a Pied Piper. Well, that's what you could call him. A Spengali. I think that's what it is. Spengali? I don't know. But anyway, he'd go to the grade school and kids, he'd know all the little kids' names and they were crazy. But anyway, we had great times and he's a great friend. And it was a great time in my life, and I know in both of their lives. So. All right, that's all I got.
Thank you. Next up, what I need to do is two folks couldn't be here tonight that really wanted to be here. Brian Stallman and Lincoln Manson. They couldn't be here, but both of them asked me to read what they wanted to say. So I'm going to read the Lincolns first, and then we'll have somebody else speak here, and then I'll get back to Brian later. Now this is from Lincoln Mansion. I will read it word for word, as I promised him I would. What? Everybody's laughing back. What are you laughing at, Andy? Is about Lincoln Mansion? But I'm going to tell you something. I was blown away by what he said. I'm so much, and I didn't expect
Save
that.
it for the last then, Steve. It was that good.
I did not think Lincoln had it in him. But boy, was I wrong. Hello, everyone. I'm very sorry that I am not present for tonight. Sometimes the timing of life is bad. I truly believe it was the work of the good Lord that brought Coach Worland and Coach Garrett to WC back in the fall of 1981. There were some crazy, miraculous things that occurred to lead up all that coming together. I, along with many others, am so thankful that it did. I and many other former players and students have a lifetime of gratitude. Students of Coach Worland have a lifetime of gratitude. Coach Worland and Coach Garrett sure did teach us a lot about basketball. So much to the point where it's difficult for me to watch a game in today's age without getting so angry of the poor coaching that's going on in this world. Lincoln. But what we learned from you, Coach Worland, was so much more than basketball. You taught me skills for life. Your work ethic was unmatched. You'll remember this, Janet. It didn't matter if it was a Wednesday in January or a Sunday in July. We could drive by the high school and your Datsun 280Z was parked in the street. In some capacity, you were inside working. It was uncanny. The work ethic rubbed off on the whole Washington Catholic community. This is what I've been wanting to say myself. Everyone saw how hard you were working, and they wanted to do their part. This includes players, students, fans, ticket holders, PA announcers, ushers, and all the above. You had a way of team building that went well beyond your actual basketball team. We all learned from that. Your passion for WC and your players was unmatched. And I certainly do not think it's a coincidence that so many of your former players and students from all different schools have gone on to be extremely successful in whatever endeavor they've chosen. So once again, I'm so sorry that I'm missing your surprise party. I wish you nothing but the best and congratulations on a great career, and thank you so much, even now, what you're trying to do to help the Washington Catholic school system. Have a great time, everyone. Lincoln Mansion. All right, next up, we would like to, let me say something real quick about Danny Eigel. Danny Eigel, bless his heart, is the epitome of what Washington Catholic stands for in my opinion. He never played basketball until his junior year, am I right? Yes. Junior year, he came out. I guess he was been watching and listening to his brother, and this is exciting. I want to be a part of this. And Danny Igle came out, and when you look at the size of him, the tallness of him, okay? Let me, a quick story about Danny Igle real quick. We're playing Evansville Memorial in our gymnasium, Evansville. And please, I'm not prejudiced because my ex of 25 years was black, so can't call me that. We played two tall, but big, tall black players from Evansville Memorial in our gym. They're probably in there thinking, what is this cracker box? Okay? Our center was Danny Igle, who hadn't played in his life, well, not while they were there, came out. He was our starting center that year as a junior. Let me tell you something. We beat Evansville Memorial. I'm talking JV right now, I don't know. But this young man was guarding a 6'3" guy. And the other guy who they had on the floor, 6'2" or 3", was being guarded by Michael Burkhart, like 5'11". And those two guys, and especially Danny Igle, just took those big guys to school. Okay? That's why he was successful coming back and coaching at Washington Catholic. He was a player, then in the program, he was a help coach later on, and he did a great job because tremendous knowledge, smart basketball player, work ethic, and he took that to his kids. So I'm really proud of what Danny became and for what he did for the Washington Catholic basketball program. Danny Igle, your turn, big boy. Oh, Ken.
I can't read either, so
Oh.
either for me. First of all, Lincoln stole a line from mine.
Okay.
He did that before, but
Okay. Say it anyway.
So I'm going to talk about Dave Worland post WC mostly. I think that everyone in this room loves and respects and truly cherishes the time that we got with Dave Worland. I know I do, and I have 100 stories that I could tell, but I'm only going to share a couple. First is his dedication to whatever he's doing. When I moved to Lafayette, I had an apartment about a mile from Central Catholic. So I passed by the school several times a week, sometimes a couple times a day. And there I would see Coach's car. Whether he was the basketball coach or the principal, it was truly amazing. It was just like at WC, when you would drive by the school and there would be Coach Worland's car. This man gave everything to whatever he was doing. I think we can see that in his professional life and through his family life. And I'm sure he made great sacrifices of his own family so that he could be there for the rest of us. The second story I would like to share is his incredible generosity. I have called on Coach many times for tickets to basketball and football state finals, as he was part of a world with wonderful connections. I can't tell you the amount of times that he came through for me, but it's a lot. One year, not so long ago, Coach got to join us for a couple of beers between state finals basketball games. Me, my brother Andy, my nephews Drew and Tyler, and my 12-year-old grandson Brody. I found out Coach was coming. I was super excited because I've been telling Brody stories about the legend of Dave Worland for many years and what he meant to our small Catholic community. Not just the basketball program, but the school and the pride and the class that he brought to Washington Catholic. When I got to introduce Brody to him, they hit it off immediately, as Brody is a gigantic sports fan. Within 15 minutes, and it probably wasn't 15 minutes, Coach had invited him to Cathedral High School where they were holding the Indiana High School All-Star game between the senior and junior All-Stars. He told Brody he could get autographs, he could get pictures with the players, he could be in the locker room before the game started, and that he could invite anyone in his family and any of his friends that he wished. Needless to say, Brody was thrilled, and so was I, but not surprised. You see, this is Dave Worland. The Dave Worland I've known forever. This is who he is. It's almost like he can't help it. Needless to say, Brody got a night he will never forget, nor will I. And when Dave Worland left Washington Catholic, I was as disappointed as the rest of you. But I think we all knew that this man was going to do great things. I remember even thinking, if this guy wants to be president one day, he can. Now, he didn't do that, but his accomplishments are too great and never to list. So I'm not even going to try to do that. But now, I would like to toast, without a drink, this 70 years young man who we all love, who will never really be retired, and thank him for all the goodness he has brought into all our lives. Dave Worland, we love you. And cheers.
Thank you, Dennis. Beautiful. Next up, Eddie Brigham. Eddie, stay there for a second. Eddie is going to speak. Eddie was on the sectional championship team. And many of them that were on that team could not appear today. Many of them moved far, far away. Shane Rodimo couldn't make it. Eddie was on that sectional championship team. And Eddie was the epitome, like Danny was, in my opinion, of what a Washington Catholic basketball player stands for. Hard worker, bust your butt. I mean, Eddie's 5'11" or whatever, and he's playing against the big guys. And I'm going to tell you something, though, the big guys, they knew they had a battle when they were up against Eddie Brigham, because he didn't play. And he wasn't a great scorer, but he was a part of the cog to help us win a championship. And he accepted his role. Let me tell you about Eddie. And I'm sorry, Eddie, I've told people I'm not laughing, but you blow my mind when 85 graduated Vincent University as an aircraft mechanic. I would have never thought. Spent 15 years on aircraft, working on aircraft. And then 23 years teaching aircraft for Vincent University as a professor. God bless you, Eddie, because if you gave me 100 options of what I would have thought a professor, that wouldn't have been one of them. So, but that doesn't, again, I got goosebumps. That doesn't surprise me about Eddie. Great, just an incredible person. Up, Eddie Brigham.
I only got a list of things not to say out loud. Because I know better. And I'm going to sit down because I'm going to stand up for important things. I'm glad that I was part of Class 85. It was nice to be able to have, along with Kevin and Danny and Mike Burkhart, to drag his lazy butt to the first sectional championship and set him on his way to some success. I hope he appreciates it, but I'm not sure that he does. We had never won a game until Andy Eigel, you, and that big oof right there come along. We never won a game from whenever to eighth grade when you came in, right? We never won a game till that, and then Andy was our eighth grade coach, and we killed him. So it's pretty interesting how much difference you can make in something if you're dedicated like you guys are dedicated. It's I'm glad that tomorrow's Father's Day.
Yes.
Because as all of my many wives can tell you, when I introduced Dave, my lovely latest one here, Becky, tell you is, the way that I introduced them to David, I said, this is my second father. And I've felt that way forever. I don't know how many times we've talked, good and bad things, all the time. You don't ever not get a response. Half the time he answers the phone, I'm like, he's not gonna answer, but I'll leave him a message, and then he answers the phone. I'm like, what the heck? I wasn't ready to actually talk. And I mean, it's 40 years. 40 years. You know, and we crossed paths a ton because you guys probably don't know this, but I was hugely involved in sports. I coached 56 seasons of sports from grade school, middle school, high school, in a bunch of different sports. So we crossed paths all the time. And I was very successful. I was successful because of what I learned from these guys. You know, and when it came to teaching, same thing. She'll tell you, I've said this forever. I used to like to say, and this is what I learned from you guys. I wasn't building say, aircraft mechanics or players. I was building young men and women. The teaching the craft, the sport. For me, you know, aircraft maintenance, that's easy stuff. That's the X's and O's are easy. It's the other thing. It's that intangible and teaching people how to do things right and have the right attitude. That, I mean, and you can see that. Look at the success factor of the students that went through WC through that time period. Where they're at now as adults. It's absolutely amazing. He thought I was probably going to be a mafia hitman. I mean, it is. It's just amazing. I'm stunned all the time. You know, and I'll tell you, I've had some really bad health issues. Steve, Dave, Kevin, Brian, you guys will come to Indianapolis or to Mooresville and have lunch with me just to see how it's doing. Who does that after 40 years? You know, Brian lives in what, Cincinnati? That's crazy. They came and saw me when I was in the hospital half of last year. You know, it's just absolutely amazing to have people like that. Everything I did in my life, and I was a very, very successful coach. And we actually had this discussion when they came and saw me in the hospital one time. They're like, you didn't do this drill and that drill. Yeah, I did. With fifth-grade girls. Like, yeah, we did. Didn't I? She knows. I coached her kids in school, and we were married to different people then. But yeah, it was just plug and play. All the stuff that we learned was just absolutely amazing, you know. And the great thing about Dave too was, and I know this through other people as well, it wasn't just like calling him about sports or this or that. I have a severely autistic son. I was trying to get him into an institution. I called Dave, well, he just happened to know the president of the board of the institution I wanted to, you know, it's like, really? And, you know, helping people through jobs and crisis and things like that. Never questioned it, just happened. It was absolutely amazing. It's a guy I wish I could have always been, to be honest with you. I've done all right, but I'm no Dave Worland, I'll tell you that. That guy is a special type of guy right there. So that's all I want to say. And again, you're welcome for that sectional championship.
Thank you. Thank you. Next up is going to be Jeff Perdue. Now, Jeff Perdue was a baseball player in our program. And boy, Jeff Perdue was pretty good baseball. I helped coach the baseball team, and I used to be a great player when I was younger and when I played. Very good. Took pride in it. And I coached many different levels of baseball, many, throughout my career before I even came here. And I'm going to tell you something. I've said it to other people. Jeff Perdue was the best catcher that I've ever been associated with as a coach. Catcher. Who is like the point guard on the basketball team. The most important player in Coach Garrett's mind is the point guard. The catcher is the baseball point guard. Tremendous. Now, let me tell you, He went to play at Purdue University as a catcher, doesn't surprise me. But as a pitcher, would surprise me. I found out he pitched, that surprised me. But the fact is, he went on to play at Purdue University, and got a degree at Purdue. But I want to hear, I must say this, because this brings a tear, this is important to me. He's in the Big Brothers and Big Sisters program, paired with a young man. He volunteers with the Evansville Challenger baseball team, helping kids with physical and mental challenges enjoy the game that he loves. And as a board member of the local nonprofit Granted, Jeff helps life-changing wishes for children facing critical terminal illnesses. He helped lead the charge to raise over $3 million twice for the program. Once for Mickey's Kingdom, a fully inclusive playground in downtown Evansville, and another time for the Granite House for Hope. Jeff is a part of the strategic planning team, Dave Worland, Brian Stallman, Toby Madison, and others who are trying to shape the future of Washington Catholic schools. Proud dad, proud grandfather, but a pretty amazing person in my opinion. Thank you for what you do for those people and those kids. Jeff Purdue, you're up.
I'm gonna drag your sorry ass up here.
All right. Hey, thank you.
Now you get up here and get a face in
I
one.
do.
Yeah.
I just see this.
Yeah. All right, so 1981, I had just finished my freshman year at Washington Catholic. I was about 5'10". I think I weighed 110 pounds. And I get a phone call from this guy. He's like, hey, Dave Worland, Jeff, we've not met. He goes, somebody says you're pretty artistic. I said, yeah, I like to draw. He goes, well, I got something I want you to do. He goes, I want you to meet me by the gym. Tuesday night, 6 p.m., I'm going to pick you up. We're going to go do some stuff. So, is this your son?
This is the youngest son.
All right,
Sean.
get up here. 'Cause I need him, because I can't use you. What is his name?
Sean.
Sean, Jeff. All right, this is going to be perfect. All right, so scrawny me, I'm at the bird cage, and up rolls this beautiful silver Datsun 280ZX, looked like James Bond machine. And in the driver's seat is somebody that looks like this, and I'm thinking, holy shit, Washington Catholic has got the most expensive AD and basketball coach in the state of Indiana. You can sit down. I just needed a good looking partner. They were going to buy that. So meet him, and obviously, he's like, hey, he goes, what I got in mind is I want you to do some painting in the birdcage. I want you to paint cardinals, and I want you to brand this gym up. And I'm thinking, what the heck are you talking about? He goes, and I said, well, what do you want to do? I said, what's your ideas? He goes, I don't care. Whatever you want to do, just brand it up. So I can't remember where all we went, but I do remember that night we drove to Lagodi, and we went to the Lagodi gym. And so there I am, how old are you? 14 years old, whatever, 15, probably 14 years old. And I'm at the Lagodi gym with this guy and Jack Butcher, just trying to get ideas. I'm thinking, what the hell? So he took me to some other schools to get ideas of what other people were doing in their gyms. So we get back, I'm like, okay, well, what do you want me to do? And he's like, I don't care. Whatever you want to do.
Do your thing.
Do your thing. I mean, at the time, I felt like I was Michelangelo getting ready to go paint the Sistine Chapel. Because that's how he makes you feel, right? But, I think back on that, I think, who turns a 14-year-old loose to paint the historic birdcage? You didn't know, right? But that's what Dave does. Dave elevates people to achieve more than they even know that they're possible. And that's the gift that you have, right? That's the gift that God gave you. And obviously this guy, this is, I have so much to thank for Steve and Dave. And like you say, if this room truly had the number of people that you impacted in this community, both of you guys, there would be people outside, right? Life's tough, it's tough to get together, but when I think about the lives that you guys impacted, it is mind-blowing. And I always think about, you've heard the story that when you go to heaven and that moment that God says, I want to show you something, and kind of opens the doors, and here's the people of the lives that you guys have touched. I can't imagine what that's going to be like for you. That's going to be an incredible moment. What else do I want to say? So, when I think about the people who are on my Mount Rushmore of mentors in my life, and I've told you this before, that this guy is definitely on my Mount Rushmore and I just watching how he treats people, right? Just the way that he communicates. When you're with Dave, there's nobody else around, right? It's that presence that you're just the most important person that's there. And so I just try to emulate that and pick up on that and, learn from that. So, the impact that these guys had on me when I was young was insane. Then fast forward, we have the glory years, thanks to those two guys back there.
Yeah.
And a couple of us were like, we need to do something for Washington Catholic. We got to pay it back. It's not in the spot that it was when we were here. And so, it's phone calls. We start calling. I remember calling Dave, and I was like, hey, we've got this crazy idea of trying to get some people together. Would you think about, thinking there's freaking no way he's going to do this, right? But with Dave, what's the answer all the time? It's always yes. The answer is always, like Danny said, the answer is always yes. And so Dave's like, I'm in, whatever you need, right? So we've fast forward, we got some exciting stuff that's going to happen. But the thing that's been amazing is, here's a guy who has spent his entire career, lives up in Indianapolis, but if I call him and say, hey, we got this meeting or we want to meet this donor or whatever, the answer is always yes. The answer is always yes. So the last thing I want to say is, and I just picked up on this tonight during the program because it just kind of hit me. God put it on my heart. But it is so you. But it's Bible verse, Colossians 3:23. And it says, and this is Dave Worland to a T. It says, whatever you do, work at it with all your heart, as working for the Lord, not for human masters. And man, that just hit me because the effort that you pour into anything that you do, it's like you're doing it for the Lord. And that's the effort you get, right? And that's what we've all picked up from you. So thank you for everything you've done for me and my brother and my family and all the people and the hundreds of people who couldn't be here tonight. And congratulations. All right. Thank you.
Perfect.
They weren't going to buy me.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay, next up, let's keep on moving here. Next up would be Mr. Robert Norris. Robert, great ball player. I as a JV coach never got to touch Robert. Yes, I did. I had Robert, I think, for one day, maybe 2 days, and it was determined that he didn't need to be on my team. He needed to go up. So I lost him pretty quick. But as a JV coach, as an assistant varsity, I got to work with Robert. God, what a great human being. Great basketball player, and also another one of those members of that sectional championship team. Robert went on to play college basketball, like Bill, at Oakland. Robert played some defense, though.
Nice word work.
Just want to let you know. Robert played some defense. Robert Norris, member of the sectional championship team. I want him to say a few words. Robert, come on up, please. Robert Norris. Oh, I got to tell you, and I don't get embarrassed of it. How many pounds have you lost in the last few months?
40.
Oh,
40 on the way to 100.
He's trying to get to 100 total. Bless his heart.
I'm coming, I don't know why I'm supposed to be talking nice things about a guy that made me do so many suicides and so many pitter patters and all that good stuff. But I come from a little bit different deal because I didn't move in here until the same year that Coach Worland got here. So I didn't know anything about Washington Catholic's past, how the program was or anything. I just came in. I also came in, my dad was in the service, so we moved around a lot. So I never played on any organized sports teams. You know, Dad put a basketball goal up in our driveway, and I'd go out and shoot every now and then, and that was it. So when we moved back here, they gave me my choice of, you know, you can go to Washington High School or you can go to Washington Catholic. My cousins all went to Washington Catholic, so hey, I'll go to Washington Catholic. You know. So I get there. At that time, I'm 5'11", freshman. I come in, no thoughts of even playing basketball, and they approach me and say, hey, you know, we'll go out for the freshman team, you know, and you know the guys in the class said, hey, you need to come in and play. So I did. Coming in, everybody knows who went to Washington Catholic, who had Mr. King. I got to play the first semester, and I didn't get to play the second semester because I was young. So after that, I was like, okay, you know, the basketball part's out. I gotta pay attention to my schooling, and I gotta get better grades. And so I wasn't planning on playing basketball. I was done. And, you know, they came up to me again and said, hey, you gotta give it another shot. You know, so I came in sophomore year, and I did have Coach Garrett for just a little bit in my sophomore year. But the first article that they wrote about me, and Coach, when he kind of explained things about me, said that I couldn't walk and chew bubble gum at the same time. So I wasn't very coordinated and all that. So just Coach Worland brought in a lot of guys. He brought in Bill Brown, he brought in Steve Bushy, he brought in a lot of guys to work with me. And then in the summertime, like they said, he was always at the gym, and we could always come in and play. And we would play until, you know, it was time to go home. And so the work ethic that he instilled in all of us was second to none. And, you know, and if I know my senior year, I got a little cocky one time, and he kind of put me in my place. You know, he was good at that. You know, he was good at making sure that you stayed on keel. So, you know, and then you know, he was always so close to his players that even now and then he would let you take his Datsun 280ZX and go wash and wax it, and he'd let you cruise town. Wow, what a guy! So, and we talked about you know, the car itself just today, about, you know, that was the first car that I ever had. You know, I knew how to drive a stick. But you could go out when you're cruising town, you'd go through McDonald's, and when you'd have to come up the hill there, anybody who knows how you drive a stick, you know, you're on the gas and you're letting up the clutch. That one there, you could just let the clutch come up and it would just take off. You didn't even have to give it gas. So it was an awesome car. So, you know, I never aspired to play basketball in college until Coach World. You know, I mean, that's, you know, and again with Bill, you know, Bill kind of got me into Oakland City, and, you know, like I said, I scored more than him. But and like Bill said, when I came up here, you know, everybody at Oakland City, they knew me as Chuck, not, you know, because. But the other thing that he inspired me to do was when I went to college, I went for accounting because he was an accounting teacher, and he just, you know, that was one of the things that I just really liked, you know, when he taught that. So he made me want to go ahead and get the accounting degree, and you know, and then we've been in touch, you know, all these years. It's been 4 years. 4 years since '85, you know, and you know, with these guys, you know, my class, you know, us getting to that and being able to do that, and then talking to the younger guys and just knowing what those 4 years that you were here did, that just moved it on. I know we had some good coaches that came in after you, but you started it. You got them. You know, the younger kids started, and they seen what we did, and it just snowballed on down. So I'm hoping with what you guys are doing now, that maybe we can get Washington Catholic back on the map again and all that. But, you know, that's how you've inspired me through my life, and I appreciate that. And happy 70th.
Thank you, Robert. almost down the pike here. I'd like to now, if I may, read what Brian Stallman asked me to read. And I will read it, and if you know me and Brian, he called me up after he wrote this and said, he promised me to read what I said exactly. I said, I promise, I'll read it. All right, here we go. Hey, Coach Garrett, here are my thoughts I'd like to share with you for tomorrow. Thank you, Coach Garrett, for spearheading this tribute to Dave Worland and for your own terrific contribution to the WC in the 80s. You personally demonstrated the true value of hard work and inspired all of us. Thank you. To Coach Worland, tonight's gathering reflects the love and respect we hold for you, Janet, and your family. Your hiring by Sister Joseph Louise transformed WC, and we're grateful for that. Coach, you were the architect as your dedication and leadership in the 80s shaped so much success in the life lessons for all of us at WC. You inspired us, teaching us resilience and teamwork. Your enduring influence continues to shape the lives of so many of us in the WC family. Your remarkable leadership extended beyond WC, blessing several Catholic schools throughout your illustrious career. What an incredible journey. Thank you, Coach, for all you've done for Washington Catholic and for me personally, and for your continued commitment to giving back to the WC community through your concurrent growth efforts at the WC. Though you are so-called retired, you're clearly just beginning your next chapter. Sorry, Janet. We love and admire you, Coach. I hope you, Janet, and your family enjoy this well-deserved tribute tonight. Brian Stallman. Next up, speaking of Brian, let's go with Kevin Stallman. Kevin Stallman, come on up here. I think we all know Kevin. He's pretty much, he was one of those guys that I also had the blessing of having him, don't you go nowhere, having him on the JV team for about a week. And he kept getting so, a quick story, Coach, I hope you remember this. He was so good as a sophomore, he started on the JV for a week for practicing when we're scrimmaging into the varsity. At one point in time, I went up to Dave on the floor and said, you got to just take this kid. I mean, yeah, I'd like to have him on, but geez, as a player of his talent on the JV, gee, it was only a matter of time, but I told Dave this kid is special. And he went on to have some great success. Unfortunately, he did go down that road there and teach at that Washington school. But, you can't get too mad at him. So anyway, part of the sectional championship team also, Kevin Stallman.
I just want to share one story that I think typifies what Dave did for me. So I was a freshman and I'd come up to the junior high and I'd heard all about Dave and all about Steve Garrett, how hard their practices were and how tough we were going to have to work and all those kind of things right there. And I kind of got that. I was all right with that. And I just remember I was in the summer and I came in to play up in gym ball there. We were just scrimmaging back and forth and I was missing shots. And I missed. Well, I was cussing. Every time I'd miss, I'd say this, say that. I can't say cuss. I'll tell you what I said. That can't happen. Anyway, I would shoot, cuss. I was a 15-year-old. I thought, well, everybody will think I always make all my shots, right? If I miss one, maybe, But I just remember what Dave, I waited a few rounds to go, and Dave brought me over by myself, and I just wasn't really sure what I was going to hear from him, because I really knew him quite a bit, but I really didn't know him real well. And he just started talking to me about this and about that, and then he was like, hey, what through all the, we went through a few of these little things like this, and he was talking to me about what kind of language I was using, and I was, he said, hey, you need to have very better vocabulary, and he'd go through all the little things you had like that. But the major thing was, he just kept talking to me. He knew I had a brother on the team. He was like, hey, how are you going to feel about having your brother on the team? How's that going to work out? How are you guys going to be? Think you'll be okay like that? And I thought, he actually kind of cares about what I think. So I sat and talked to him for a while, and to be honest, after that day, I was hooked. I mean, I was hooked as far as what WC guys and what these guys brought to us. And Coach Garrett with all the effort that he put out and the different things like that. It was just, to me, I was just, hooked. And I always remember that. And I really coached, I think I coached like 20 times. And I like the teaching better than the coaching, but I coached for like 20 years. But it was at least once or twice a year, I would always think about that. I'd see some kid out there cussing or doing something like that, and I always think, there's the connection moment right there. I can take the time to do what Dave did and take him over there and talk to him and try to, do those kind of things. And I just think those little things like that, somebody like that, like Dave shared with me, I was able to share with a lot of people, and I just am truly thankful, and I try to take that attitude to the classroom to the best I can. I don't think I can do the job that Dave did for certain, but I just think those things were just so impactful to me. As a matter of fact, I went to be an engineer after a couple years of engineering at Purdue, and I just wasn't very happy with where I was going. And I just thought to myself, what do I want to do? What do I want to do with myself? And I just thought about what Dave had done for me, and that's why I went into teaching and coaching, and then I went to be assistant for Dave and all that. So I could, I thank you, Dave, and wish you, happy birthday, and hey, hope you for many, many more. And I really appreciate that. So that's what.
Don't you go anywhere.
I don't like this.
All right, so my senior year at Purdue University, me, Kevin, Alan, my brother Aaron, we're roommates. My senior year, I'm going out. He just told the story about, you were in electrical engineering.
2 years of it.
So Kevin checked out an entire semester. His entire semester was getting up at about 11, eating a bowl of cereal on the couch. He didn't go to, back me up, he didn't go to a class the entire semester. It was cereal on the couch. Hold on.
That's exaggeration here.
Okay. And video games. We'd leave for class, there was Kevin with the blanket, bowl of cereal, video games. Come back from class, there he was. So about 3 weeks to go in the semester, Kevin's like, oh shit, finals are coming up. But because of what you learned from Dave and probably Coach Garrett, you buckled down, you focused, and you pulled out the finals, switched majors, and got a degree from Purdue University. 4 years. Look what you did for this guy.
Okay, the next up, I've had time to be thinking about this for months, planning this in my head. One of the things that came through my head many times, if there was ever a Washington Catholic Athletic Hall of Fame, well, many of the people in here would be in that. And the next speaker was John Mullen. John was fortunate enough to be on that semi-state team, that great team, and Toby coming up, Alan McDonald, right? I'm gonna tell you something. That is a special. That is a memory that I don't care how old you get. That's going to be a part of the Washington Catholic lore, and a lot of people in here are just incredible people. But this young man, John Mullen, to me, is an incredible person. I'm going to tell you something. I said it before. I'm going to say it again until I die. What they did in the glory days, incredible. The amount of work they put into that, geez, is incredible. And it brought back a lot of memories and brought back a lot of people's lives. It was just incredible. But John, I did not know this, and I learned about this. John was a three-star three-player athlete. He played three-sport athlete at Washington Catholic. But John Mullen was a valedictorian. I did not know that. I knew he was smart, but wow.
Ask him a math problem right now. 86 times 40. 2240.
Yeah. But, yeah, but anyway, he has been so helpful to me in organizing this, trying to do this, get this plan and all that. Appreciate their help. What they care so much about the program. What WC is in their hearts, and they are the only member that I know of that ever played basketball in a semi-state representing Washington Catholic. John Mullen, come on up.
Surprise, Coach. This was a surprise.
Yeah, you're the guy, yeah.
I ruined the surprise. Coach, if you don't mind, would you care to stand with me? I'm not gonna do anything silly, but I just want to stand next to you. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
This guy wrote an article. I've done coaching.
We're here for you.
I know.
Sorry,
but I'll tell it later. But hell of an article. Hell of a story, but good.
Okay.
So.
And Yvonne, would you come up too? Okay. So, I've been called Little John all evening. I don't get it. Sister Yvonne, my kindergarten teacher. So it's August of 1980. I just turned 5 years old. Mom and Dad send me to WC, and I wouldn't go up the stairs into the elementary. I wouldn't go up the stairs. And she carried me over her shoulder to my first kindergarten class. If it wasn't for her, I wouldn't have been at WC. I wouldn't have gone to school. I never would have. So Mom takes me to school, and I just wouldn't go up the stairs. And you literally put me over her shoulder and took me, and of course, once I got into your room in kindergarten, the rest is history. But I say that because, that's the kind of WC stories that just radiate with me. The first day of my WC life in kindergarten, this lady here just had the audacity and the strength to. I wasn't little, even at 5 years old. I'll tell you how much I weigh now, but thank you so much. Thank you so much for taking me up those stairs that day. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much.
I was raised with 6 older brothers, so I knew about these guys.
So we got Sister Yvonne who gets me into the school, and then the next year as a first grader, Coach, you show up at WC, and from that point on, from that first grade, Toby and I in the same class together all those years, and it just basketball became everything to us, and so you were the architect, as we've talked about that word, but at almost 50 years old, I look back. And we didn't think about any of that. We just knew that we couldn't wait to go to basketball camp the entire month of July in that 127-degree gymnasium with
no fans,
106 kids. And I have no idea how in the world you and Coach Garrett pulled that off, because it's a small gym. But back then, when you're 6 and 7 and 8 years old, it's like, it's the best place in the world.
These are certificates of ribbons that you would.
It's amazing. And the posters, Toby, the posters, right? Like the posters that we got, the best. I mean, unbelievable. But my point is, the passion and the pride is what I learned from you and from WC. The passion that you must have had for the school and the kids, not to mention the basketball program. It's just something I can't really describe because I was so young. But you mentioned that article, so.
probably everybody in this room that was around back then was at that L&M game at Switch City. It was just small town excellence. And I'm 8 years old, and it was just, to this day, I can't explain to people what that meant to me. You know, as you go into life, what are we going to do with ourselves? And teaching and coaching is what eventually happened because of what I experienced at WC in the basketball program. Obviously, we had other coaches, but you and Coach Garrett were the guys that instilled that passion, that pride. And, I think back to when we'd come over for pep sessions from the elementary. There would be awards given for the craziest, the red, white, and black. You were supposed to dress up, and man, some of the things that we would wear to the pep sessions to win those contests. I mean, just from head to toe, every button, it was just silliness, but it was that you were building that pride, you know, that passion. It's still something I'll never forget. I didn't get to play basketball for you, but we got to celebrate that sectional championship. It was 38 years between 1947 and 1985, an entire lifetime for a lot of folks. And the celebration was here in the old KSC.
Downstairs.
And it was outside in the streets. And they ran out of beer at the KSC that night.
And we were required to come to the KSE first.
Yeah.
All the players were.
Yeah.
You came here.
I mean,
No doubt about it.
Yeah.
you guys signed all our shirts, right? I mean, it was just like, you guys were heroes to us. And there's guys here that we just looked up to. But, you know, there was a guy named Dave Worland in this town who could never be called Dave Worland because you're the only Dave Worland in this town. I don't know if you guys know this, you probably do, but the other Dave Worland, he signed the book NTC, not the coach. He became NTC for the rest of his life. I'm 9 years old. And we lived at the KSC. My dad came to the KSC about every day after work. I kind of grew up in the old KSC. And I'd see NTC on the board. I'm like, Dad, what does that mean? Well, that's the other Dave Worland. That's not the coach. This guy's the mayor. You mentioned the president. I mean, he's at least the mayor of this town. The good that you've done throughout your career, it started at WC. It continued all the way. It continued all the way through. And I know every time I run into you, you're excited to see me. I'm always excited to see you. But just that pride and that passion is just something, you know, that I really look up to. And as a school administrator now, I just really appreciate how you've always been there. Yeah, Coach. So, good.
Thank you. Okay, we're almost at the end of the rope here. Can I ask if any time you ever coached at any level in Washington Catholic School program basketball? Would you stand up, please? If you ever coached at Worland Catholic, in any level, please stand up. That's what I thought. There you go. That's what made you that is what made WC so special. Is that people wanted to give back after they left. I can't help. I got to say this, Mike Wichman. I remember when I was here with Dave, one of the things that inspired me, or not inspired me, but impressed me, and this is because Dave, but boy, did he know how to pick out people. And his picking out assistant coaches in the lower levels, the levels that are important, remember that John and Toby, when they were first graders, they had a coach, the second grader had a coach, that basically ran Dave's program, how we're going to do things. And I've been to school programs where that ain't the case. The coaches think that they know it all, the junior high, elementary, they're going to run their own stuff. Never happened here because of the people that Dave chose. Again, I said this earlier, everybody worked for the same cause. And that's an incredible feat. And I think of Mike Wichman because I remember, God almighty, was he good at the elementary level, the lower level. I mean, it takes a special thing to teach young kids how to play the game and still keep them occupied.
I mean, come on, I mean, sometimes they're going somewhere else in their brain, they see something shiny or whatever in the gym. But these guys were fantastic, and you saw them, some of them stand up, and one of them's getting ready to speak here pretty soon. But the fact is, I wanted to make sure that I mentioned him, because boy, he impressed the crap out of me when I was here. Thank you, Mike, with you. Okay. And next up, boy, oh boy. Also a member of the semi-state championship team. Not championship, but they played in the semi-state, which is a feat beyond. But this young man, Toby Madison. Now, first of all, he deserves to be in the Hall of Fame for just the glory days he put together. But as a human being, as a player, wow, incredible. And I think people need to deserve to be recognized, because I did some research. All right, all-time leading scorer in WC history. Okay. The only Indiana All-Star from Washington Catholic. Well, come on, from the school of 150 kids, there aren't many in the history of the state of Indiana that made the All-Star team. Wow. Okay? Played 5 years of college basketball, 2 at University of Evansville, 1 at Wabash College, 2 at South Alabama. Played in 2 NCAA tournaments at South Alabama in the Sun Belt. Sun Belt Conference tourney MVP as a senior. College. Not a crappy college, okay? Played 2 professional seasons in the Chinese NBA. Sometimes you need to tell people about it because he deserves this needs to be said. And you probably, most of you know it anyway. Coach, many years of coaching, but the bottom line is he also coached high school, coached assistant at different levels in the high school in Florida here. But here's the kicker. 2 years as Appalachian State University as assistant coach in college. 2 years as head coach of Wabash Valley College. Well, I'm hard to impress when it comes to basketball, but geez, I mean, this young man, and he's also on that committee trying to help rebuild WC, like that young man Jeff Purdue is, and some others in here. Bottom line is, this, if there ever is a Washington Catholic Hall of Fame, I know who gets who should be the first inductee. Toby Madison. Come on. Don't forget to pay me that $10. Right?
Yeah. I think it was 100. Thank you guys for coming. I know Coach Garrett obviously was inspired by what John and I did last fall, which I think still just impacted so many people. I wish we could do it every year, honestly. It was such an awesome night. It changed him to the fact where he wants to stay in touch with everybody, right? Reconnecting and stay connected. And I think that's huge in today's world. I think that's what life's all about, is just, relationships with people and so forth. So I want to thank him for wanting so badly to do this. I know, he wanted to have 300 people again in here, and we probably could have. But I think this is a spin-off, and there's multiple spin-offs going on from that reunion that I think people have reconnected, and they want to spend time with one another while they can. And we know how important that is because we've lost a few since that reunion. And Tom Tucker would absolutely be here, probably a few cocktails deep at this point, and making jokes. We've lost a few since that, and I know that the families of those folks have reiterated to John and I multiple times, thank you so much, because that was a special weekend for them to spend that time and reconnect with all the people from that wonderful time in the school. I'm going to just share a few stories. You know, first of all, my accomplishments at WC, and I said this at the reunion, was built because of what happened before me. You know, it was Robert and Bill and Brian Stallman and you know, John said it equally. I mean, we were able to witness that and look up at these guys bigger than life, and couldn't wait to try to emulate that. And then some of the later guys, you know, Alan was with my brother's class, and those guys were big brothers to me. I was always tagging along. I was always in the gym playing against them. Didn't have any business playing against them. They beat the crap out of me, but you know, all that paid off in the end to allow me to accomplish some really neat things and fall in love with a game that I still love today and I still give back to. So thank you to all those guys. That was awesome. I'm going to have Coach Worland come up in a minute, and I'm also going to have his wife come up because I have a really neat memory to share. I will go back to the camps, but I'll start with what I call the package deal. I was young, so I don't know the conversations that went on between Coach Worland and my dad. Rumor has it was over some pizza when my dad ran his pizza place. My dad might have had a few beers, I don't know. But you know, my oldest brother and my middle brother and I, Ty Travis and I, we moved to Washington and we were all at Griffith and in the WHS school system. So, you know, I wasn't involved in the decision making as a kindergartner or as a first grader, but that's where we were. And so at some point, Coach Worland, you know, sat with mom, dad, just dad, I don't know, and we ended up making the move over. And you know, it probably had more to do with Ty than me. Travis, he wasn't worth a crap, right? But I feel like I was just part of a package deal for us, you know, as three boys to move over to a situation that we didn't know what was happening, but obviously great things were happening and in the works. And I think that when you look back at that time, you look at those families, the brothers, the McDonalds, the Stallmans, the LaGranges. I mean, there were multiple guys in those big families, and that was the key to everything, right? It was that thing. So I was just kind of part of the package, but what a blessing to impact me in such an enormous way. And you know, coming full circle now, being back home and being able to give back a little bit to the school has been great. This will all come full circle, but I feel like what Coach Worland means to me is, like, I feel like when you get in his circle, you're in it for life, right? And we've heard people say, I called on him here, I called on him there, I called on him there. And when you're in a circle, like, you're in a circle, right? And he's always going to be able to say yes. He's always going to give back to you and give you opportunities. So if you both could come up, I'm going to share a funny story because Janet. Yeah. So my two fun memories of him when I was super little. You know, everybody makes a big deal when there's a royal wedding. Right? Oh, we got to watch the royal wedding. There's millions of people. I feel like if we went back to their wedding at the Holodome in Vincennes, and if it was able to be televised, I think it would have been just as big as a royal wedding, because we had the king and the queen of Washington nuptials, right? So, and I don't remember anything about it except, you know, John and I were in the pool and in the hot tub. That's all we cared about. We didn't care about what was going on. You know, we just know people were having a good time and we were swimming and in the hot tub. So, but you know, I know the place is special because, you know, when you meet your partner for life and you start a family, you know, Lafayette was probably great. South Vermilion was great. Dearborn. See, I don't even remember that. Cathedral's great, whatever, but I mean, this is where you meet your partner for life. And I mean, they had a royal wedding. So, you know, I remember it as however old I was. But, you know, we all find that person in life that allows you to do what you need to do. You have kids, you build your legacy. And his legacy outside of this is great, but I'm sure he would say this legacy is probably the most special to him. So you got a good one. Thank you. You can go and he can stay. We've talked about the camps, right? So you know, the camps were obviously the highlight for all of us growing up, and I have a story. He may not remember this, but I don't know. I don't remember anything, right? John remembers everything. I remember nothing. But I remember this exact moment in this place, and it was in the summer, and it was after camp was over, and I always had a basketball with me, and I brought my basketball down the steps. She has to go down the KC because I'd always want to dribble down the steps, dribble up the steps to see if I could not mess up. And it was after camp. It was the end of camp. I had my basketball, and I was a little kid, and you know he knew everybody, right? So he knew who I was or whatnot. I remember at the KSC, like showing him how I could dribble through my legs, and he was standing right next to me, and he was watching me, and I was like trying to, oh, Coach, I can do this, right? I remember that. I don't remember anything else. I don't remember anything my wife would tell me. I remember nothing. But I remember that moment. And you know, now it's kind of becomes bigger than basketball. And like I said, when you're in a circle, you're in a circle. I remember sometimes, I think it was the All-Star thing. We came to Lafayette, and I was in his living room, and he was looking after me. He didn't have to, but I was, you know, in Lafayette for mini camp for All-Stars, and he was there, making sure that this WC kid, who he had nothing to do with since he was little, was okay. And then the bigger one is fast forward to when I was coaching at Wabash Valley College, and personally, I was going through a really, really rough time. To be a coach's wife is hard, and when I was coaching college, it's hard. And my wife, who's now my ex-wife, she was a terrible coach's wife, awful. Awful. So I was at a crossroads in my life. I had a wife that didn't want me to be a coach anymore, and I had a game that I was passionate about, and college coaching was what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. And so I was at a crossroads, and he knows this. I think I might have seen you at the Final Four, and it was really a tough time. And he's trying to figure out a way, and said, maybe I could get you something at Cathedral where you're, you know, out of that situation, and, you know, a discipline dean or whatever. And it ended up working out, and I ended up getting something else or whatnot. But like I said, when you're in his circle, he will look out for you, and he will find a way to try to impact your life. I didn't play for him, but he remembers that, and I remember that. And I just think that just speaks to who he is, as far as, like I said, he's always going to look out for you, and everybody said that from day one. So, you know, that was a big thing for me. Thank you. You know, thank goodness, you know, everything's worked out for me. Got a new wife. She gets frustrated with all the stuff I do too. But anyhow, but that's just who he is. He's you know, it's not the Midas touch, it's the Worland touch. You know, he'll say yes, 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 but he's kind of hard to say no to as well, right? His kids might not think that. And then I'll bring it full circle, which has been mentioned. You know, Jeff and he and I and a few others. You know, it's this place is important, and it's, you know, he built a culture here that has lived on and lived on and lived on. And, you know, WC is, you know, special to a lot of people. And I think that we're back trying to see if we can recapture some of that. And he's a huge part of it. And the reason he's a huge part of it is because people can't say no to him. And so he's going to be spearheading a lot to try to get WC back to you know, more students, more success, you know, just rebuild it back. So, you know, we all get to the point where we love to give back, and he's a huge part of that. So I'm blessed to be reconnected to him, you know, connected with him all the time. We're on Zooms and seeing each other quite a bit, and, you know, he's got the Worland touch. So I'm thankful to be able to share just a few stories. And again, I mean, when you're a kid and you get to sit in a hot tub and watch a royal wedding, nothing better than that. She's embarrassed. I don't know why she's embarrassed. But anyhow, John and I were talking about that. I was like, man, that was an awesome wedding. I don't know. We didn't care. We just wanted to swim. But thank you guys for coming. And thank him for doing it. And you know, we're gonna, you know, WC's gonna come back, and I appreciate everybody just taking part and being re-engaged as we try to reconnect all these people, because like I said, you never know when it's, you know, man, I wish I would have done this, I wish I would have done that, and so more things coming, you know, for WC to try to get some good things rolling back again and recapture what was, you know, he built when he came here in '81. So thank you. Yep.
Thank you so much, Toby. Danny Igle, before I forget, you were supposed to tell me a story about, remember? You said remind you about a story?
That's it.
Okay.
That's it.
All right. See how my brain works? You get to be this age, it pops in your head, you gotta say it while you're thinking it. All right, next up is the final speaker, I believe, at the table, Andy Igle. Now, boy, you know, one of my favorite people. Yeah, I hope I don't steal your thunder here, but let me tell you something. Andy Igle made it very clear to me and told me, and has told other people this, that had Dave Worland not come into that town in '81, Andy Igle would have said he'd be still in the factory, working in a factory. Now, let me tell you how that changes. He went on to become a hell of a basketball coach in the state of Indiana. Okay? Had a little success. 5 sectional championships as a coach. 1 regional title. 7 SWIAC conference championships. 6 Greene County tournament championships. And he would have been working in a factory had David not showed up. That's why I'm bringing him on last, because I'm going to tell you, we've all said it tonight, but this man changed a lot of people's lives, and right there is a living witness. Wow. And Andy, you know, I used to think I knew a lot of basketball. I really thought I took pride in, you know, I thought God gave me a special skill of seeing the game where other people couldn't. And then Andy came around. This man, I love talking to him, texting him during the basketball season, because, geez, oh Pete, sometimes you talk to people that don't know what the heck they're talking about. You know, like they're, what the heck, they're stupid. All right, sorry, Steve, don't say that. But with Andy, conversations about the game of basketball, for me, is on a high level. And it is so impressive that he came into our program and helped. And see, again, Dave knows how to choose people. And because he chose one of the best, that turned into becoming one of the best coaches in the state. I can't say enough about Andy Igle. I mean, I'm just telling you. Well, I can't say that story because I don't want to, you know, I think so highly of him. I suggested his name today for something special. This is why he's last, because Andy is living proof that Dave showing up kept him out of the factory. Andy, come on up, please.
I'm pretty emotional. I'm going to be really honest. My life was not very good when he got here. I was that guy that was at the bars drinking. I was working in a factory. I tried to get in the Army. I don't hear very well. They turned me down. I didn't know where I was going to go. And I'm in open gym. He comes up. He says, "Hey, I need a 5th grade coach. You're kidding. Sure, I'll do it. I was a gym rat. I loved to play basketball. So that started this whole thing. And I can tell you, as I talk, my daughter often talks about my special core guys. I'm not going to tell you what she says onto that, but Dave Worland is #1 core guy, okay? And I want to thank Sean, Courtney, Janet, and Lance, who's not here,
Amen.
for sharing this man with me and all of us at Washington Catholic to have us do the special things that we did, and then influence, and you've heard just a few stories tonight, and my story to me, obviously it's my story, is everything. Because I was working at Washington Printing Company, I was working at Tokheim, and I hadn't met the love of my life yet, and life was going nowhere. And he got me going in the right direction. Calls me a Sunday night into my 4th year, and he says, okay, what are you going to do with your life? I said, I don't know. He said, you're going back to school. You have this talent to coach and influence young people, and you're going to do it. And I wanted to do it because I went to school for broadcasting, and then that didn't work out. So that got me started into my career. I can't tell you how many times, and Janet, you're probably tired of hearing my name because this man does so much for me. I can't tell you. And I'm going to tell you one story, and I won't go into great details because I'll be up here all night. So I was at Vincent's Reveille for 4 years. The last year, I accepted a position at Jacksonville High School. Okay? I turn it down because they send me a contract that has all kinds of hours that I have to get. So I try to get back in at Reveille. They said no. So I've got 4 kids, 5, 4. I mean, they're stair ladders. We were. Yes, we were good Catholics. We were a factory. Okay, but I'm telling you, who do I call? Coach Worland. Coach, what am I going to do? I haven't slept for 3 nights. I don't want to take this job. We go to look at a house there. Janet can relate to this. There's a cow crossing the driveway as we're going to look at the house. She has her head down like, what are we doing? And we drive all the way back home, and I don't sleep for 3 nights. And I call him, and I said, what do I do? And he says, are you sure about this? Why don't you sleep on it? So I sleep on it, I wake up, I don't sleep, and I wake up the next morning and said, Coach, what am I going to do? He said, well, you resign, try to get back into Reveille. Well, Reveille had already done their procedure. So the year before, I'd interviewed at Frontier High School, okay? And at Frontier High School, a guy by the name of Doug Leslie and Norris Nearsty, who, guess what? They know Dave Worland, okay? And he makes a phone call. I get a call, Doug Leslie, an hour later, come up to Brookston, Indiana. We'll talk. They offer me a job. I go home. Norris comes back. He says, I'll be down 2 weeks for the contract. I said, okay, we're ready to roll. And then we go up there. Where am I going to live? My family's in Vincent, Indiana. I'm making $14,320. Okay? So Coach, once again, says, you're living with us. Okay? And dear Courtney here loses her bed. She loses her bedroom. Because Coach said, you're not sleeping in the guest room. Courtney's sleeping in the guest room. And you're sleeping in her bed. For 6 weeks, they let me into their house. Okay? So you get Coach Worland, you get Janet Worland, you get all the Worland, and Courtney sleeps in some, I don't know what the bed was like, but that's what he did. That's what he does. For all these years and all these people, he's had that great influence. And the one thing that's probably not been brought up enough is what a godly person he is. Okay? The man This didn't just happen by accident. It happened because the good Lord picked this man out to have this role in life, to meet his wife and have these lovely kids, and then influence a ton of people. People, he still helps me out. We may eventually move to Indianapolis. He's calling people for jobs for me now. I'm 65.
They have a guest room now.
Okay, that's good. I'm happy. I can't tell you how much the man has done, and we've heard just a few short stories. I'm not going to go on to any more, other than to say that he is one of my core guys, Chelsea, and he will always be, because as Toby said, once you get in the circle, you don't ever get pushed out. You only get more advantages. It's like the MasterCard Gold Card. Once you get it, the advantages just keep coming and coming and coming. And one of the last things my dear dad told me, he said, you know what? You're kind of like Dave Worland. You know why I'm kind of like Dave Worland? Because I tried to emulate the man. I tried to be like him. And you know what? That's not bad. Like, I'm not him, but I hope someday people say I'm close to him, because that'll give me the greatest compliment ever. Love you, Coach Worland.
Well, glad you liked my message.
Thank you, Andy, so much. Now, we're basically at the end, except for, I want to say things about Dave. But it's open to anybody who wants to say something. Right now is a chance for you to do it, so feel free to come on up or stand up and say whatever you want to do. It's open to the floor right now, anybody. Come on up there and say something.
I was a bridesmaid at the royal wedding. It took place in St. Simon's, so it was a Catholic wedding. And I got the pleasure of walking with Tom Tucker. So, rest in peace.
Did you have red bridesmaids dress?
We did. It was all
Red,
Debbie
white,
Seaton.
and black.
Yes, red, white, and black.
Debbie
The other thing is, you all don't know that Dave and Steve Garrett and Morris Petty, who left, and Tom Tucker were great dancers. The famous dance was, he traveled. Oh no! It was a front page picture. And the other thing I wanted to share was I got to drive this young lady to a lot of the basketball games in that sweet car. And it was quite the, it didn't always just drive like it was supposed to. And the thing about the L&M game, when we went in, you had a list this long of free people to get in. And this lady at the admission, she said, how many of you people are there? That's my story, and I'm ready to do it.
Sharon can't say that. Wait, one more thing. So Sharon, of course, would go to the games, and Jen and I were dating, so it
And
was,
she knew nothing about
she
basketball.
was like the worst. That's why she's a wonderful
I'm
wife
a wonderful
of
basketball
coach.
wife, because I didn't
Yeah, she didn't know what. I had to help train her. So it's part of that, Toby, was, maybe your first wife knew too much basketball. Anyway, I don't know the story. But Janet, when we were dating, she just didn't know me very well then. She knew me pretty well. But she thought that I was looking at her during the games, the whole game. So she'd be with Sharon. Well, Sharon knows about basketball.
She wasn't looking at you.
So Janet would tell me, after the game, we'd get together, whatever, we were dating. And she said, "What? I know, in the warm-up, you were looking at me, right?" I said, "No, I didn't know where you're at." And that's exactly what Sharon would tell her. She
He
said, "What
has
was
no
Sharon
clue
tell
where
me?"
you are.
There's a scoreboard right there or something.
Yeah, not a clue.
Thank goodness
I loved it. Thank you for including me.
Well, that's
Thank you. Before I forget, Dot, thank you, cookies, right? Thank you, Dot Doyle, she made all them nice cookies. Where's Brenda?
She had to go.
I'm thanking her, even though she's not here, for all she did and spreading the word. So I wanted to thank her too. Now, last thing on the list here. I don't know if you want to speak, but I'm gonna require you to. This is now about Dave. But before I begin, I would like for Dave's family to stand up, please. Come on up. Stand up. Just stand up. All of you. Please stand up.
And let me, since I was going to introduce them all and have them come up anyway.
Bingo.
So, the 3 children, Lance and his wife Kelsey, aren't here because they're on a 2-week vacation and just got back. They couldn't make it. So, and because it's a surprise, I didn't have anything to do with the planning and all that. Obviously, Janet did all the planning, so he just couldn't get here in time. Which is, it's worked out great, John. Believe me, it's glad for that. So then after Lance, Courtney and her husband Matt is over here, and 3 children. Sean is our youngest son. Katie is his beautiful wife, and I'll get into this probably. Of course, you all know Janet. You don't know Jim and Susan, so Jim and Susan, please give your family stand up. So, Susan Kendall and Jim Kendall, Janet's sister, brother. So anyway, that's my family.
Okay, thank you. And I want to personally, and then many people tonight have said this, but I want to personally thank you for Dave. I mean, it's been tough, I know, because boy, a lot of people wanted his attention. A lot of people need him. A lot of people talk, and he cared about so many. My God, you have no idea. Well, that takes a little bit away from the family. We thank you because he's a special gift, and we thank you for that. You don't know how much he means to everybody. Now, finally tonight on Dave here, we all know that Dave was Washington Catholic, won the sectional when he went to South Dearborn, won a sectional there, then he went home to Lafayette Central Catholic. He became a principal, then he went to Cathedral and became a principal, and it just list goes on and on and on. Now, the number of people he has touched. I'm going to tell you something. When I first started having lunch with Dave, I learned how quickly Dave was popular at Cathedral. We went to a place where some of the other guys went there and met us sometime, called George's. Jeez. It's like, when I went in there the first time to sit down with Dave, it's like, you talk about, he was the king. Jeez, these people were coming up to him like, and I'm thinking, wow. And this is when he was, getting ready to leave that profession. And well, he had already left his principal, but he was also at the 2020 to 2025 senior vice president of mission advancement for Cathedral. There you go. It's like he's trying to do now for WC, build the program. Jeez. IHSA board member 2014 to 2025. Board member IHSAA. Board president of IHSAA. Board president. And somebody like me and all you folks that love basketball at IHSAA, Lord, that's up there. Board president. Holy crap. 2000 board president 17 to 20. Indiana Non-Public School Association board member 2012-21. Champions Together Special Olympics co-moderator, coordinator, Cathedral 2010 to 25. Special Olympics. Come on, Dave. Pendleton State Penitentiary board member 2019 to present. Lord have mercy. Thank you for that. Come on, Dean, I'm serious. My God. Penitentiary board member. That is impressive. 2025 received honorary diploma from Cathedral High School at a graduation ceremony in May. Curriculum Development Agent, Indiana Department of Career Pathways. Whew. I mean, yeah, you're gone. You've got to slow down, dude. Volunteer support member of Washington Catholic Schools, Our Lady of Hope co-chair capital campaign, which they're presently on. I mean, I have nothing else to say. We thank you for this man, sharing him. What he's done for this community and others is incredible. And I just felt, well, God laid it on my heart that he needed this night because he deserved this night. Dave, you want to say a few words, please? Something. Come on. Say something.
Appreciate you not saying I had to speak. I said that I wanted, and I do want to. And you've already touched on probably the most important part of my life, even though it's busy. How much?
40 years.
41 years in August 4th.
Yeah.
But yeah, 40 years, you're right.
84.
Oh, that's right. Man, you're pretty good there, Sharon Haley. I love it.
Oh, God.
But with the career that we've all talked about, which I got to do what I love to do. You know, it's kind of like what some of you said. I think it was Kevin. It's like he thought he was going to do something else. He ended up being a teacher. Well, I thought I was going to be a furniture guy, a salesman, or because my dad was in the furniture business. So that was like, that's what I was going to do. My three older brothers were all in the furniture business. And I'll never forget, and it was my high school basketball coaches that talked me into being a coach and to being a teacher. And I'll never forget, I went to my dad, who was, he was pretty rough and tough. You know, he was a shrewd business guy, good, successful business guy. When you look at the dollars and cents, you know, if we're all into it for the money, go for it, you know. That could be my three older brothers all got into that, and they did really well and all that good stuff. But I'll never forget my dad, because when I told him I was going to go to school, I want to go to school and I want to be a teacher and a coach, and I want to get through school as quick as I can so I can get started. And he thought I was like the craziest guy in the world, because he says, let me make sure I understand this. He says, you can work for me, meaning him, like my three older brothers, and you can get paid right now at 19 years old. So, well, I'll give you a good salary, I'll give you a good job, because I was already doing delivery work, and I did, you know, get to work your way up. And so I understood that. And he said, so that's it. He says, now, you say you want to go to Purdue for 4 years? He says, well, let me do the math. He did the math. So you got to pay to go to Purdue. So you know, I'm going to pay you these years. So he did all the math. So I'll make a long story short. I don't know what it was back then. Maybe it was $140,000 or something that after you added everything up. And I was going to pay, you know, $30,000 or whatever it was, and could have made $140,000 or whatever. And I remember telling him, I said, yeah, it sounds pretty stupid, pretty crazy and hokey, but that's what I want to do, Dad. And to fast forward there, you know, he accepted that. I mean, he, again, thought I was on something, I think. But it's so pleasurable to be able to find your niche, find what you're passionate about. And then just like what Jeff Perdue was saying, when he said this thing came up with the WC, it was like it was a no-brainer, you know, because I came back to the glory days too. And there's a few of our classmates that were here at WC then, and that same year was Janet's 50-year anniversary, or reunion, class reunion. So I came back to her for that. And I won't, it probably hurt me more than it did anybody else, but there's a few people at Janet's class reunion, and maybe a few people at the glory days that we went to, that I'm going to say we're talking down on WC. Like, you can't believe what's going on there now. They're not doing this, they don't have that, and no baseball team, and no this and that. And what I said to those people that were I guess the Debbie Downers, or what do you want to call them, was like, well, then frickin' do something about it. Quit bitching. You know, and you know, we talk about that a lot in our circles, at home circles. Like, if you don't like it, then do something about it. You know, don't just join the Debbie Downers of the world saying how bad this is there, that is there. If you don't want to do a thing, then just drop it. Or if you want to change it, do something. So that's why when Jeff Perdue called me and said, "Hey, Coach, you want to help out a little bit?" He's like, "Yeah, you know, how about now? You know, let's do something." So So with all that in mind, I'm reflecting back on just some of these things we're talking about. I was lucky as heck to be able to be in a position and to come here, because this is my first real job out of Purdue, you know, I was kind of young and dumb, 25 years old. Like, I thought I knew a whole lot, but I really didn't until I kind of got going into this world of high school basketball and sports and teaching and all that. And so I was able to develop those kind of things. But I want to just, since this is WC, I always say I've been in education 44 years. And I loved all 44 of those years. Yeah, there's some bad days and tough days and all that good, so we all get on that. But I really loved what I did, and Janet and I would have talks about that, like, sure, when there's a bad day, is it really something you want to do? And the answer was always yes. It was always yes, I want to do that. And here at WC, I'll never forget a good friend of mine, Joe Todrank, used to be over Toadhopper, right? Yeah. He was the basketball coach at Bar Reeve. But I'll never forget when I came here to Washington Catholic, it wasn't like, it was an honor for me to come here. It wasn't like desperation, oh my gosh, they can't find anybody to do this teaching and coaching. I was the lucky one. Because Joe would tell me, he says, there's all kinds of tradition there at Washington Catholic. And he went through all the Witchmans and the Petties and all the names that you've all heard here, most of, and some of them have spoken here. He says, that's just a gold mine ready to happen. So I just, right time, right place, right situation. And Jeff said it was the good Lord was, he guided me, it wasn't me. He was the one that kind of got me going in the right direction. And so that was the greatest thing that we really, we're going to. And probably the greatest thing, and I want to ask Janet to come up now. I know she's, come on, honey. Because, sorry. Because I tell people this all the time, especially with this WC thing, was, I met my wife here. I mean, she's from here. She's a Washington Catholic graduate, and I didn't know I was going to marry her when I moved here, but I knew she was the right girl once I got to know her. And when we were at F's restaurant in Evansville, when she said yes, we had the best time on the way home, if you remember. Not that. I'm talking about.
Hey, don't talk about that.
It was the party that we had at the restaurants.
Okay.
Okay. One more thing. What everybody's alluded to is like 100% true. Because I was a career guy. I mean, if I wasn't in the furniture business, if I went in the furniture business, like I said, I'd be all in. I mean, I'd be every day, early to work, all that good stuff. I got into education. So, and kind of looking at Toby a little bit, and I know it's, I'll never forget telling Janet, because I gave you those articles and all that, and it said, never marry a coach. Right, honey? And so I didn't want her to say, well, heck with you then. I sure don't want to marry a coach because I got to do all this crap. She was like, hey, I'm all in, because she said, I won't be a career girl. I will be here for the kids, And that's why the kids, the first person they call when it's like really serious and stuff, is not the old man. It's right here, which is okay. I mean, they'll see me about some things, but the main things were. But she is the one that didn't mind, not being in the front row. She was in the back row, and she was the one changing diapers, and she was the one that kids were sick, and the kids, something came up in their lifetime from now to 30s that they are now. They call her, and she's the one who's the rock, and she let me be the career guy to do my teaching and coaching and principles and all that kind of stuff. So all of that doesn't happen by chance or by luck. You got to have the right combination. So I just wanted to say that to you.
I am honored to be honored.
Yeah, exactly. She's right. She's right.
Yes, Queen.
Yeah, she is the queen. Tommy Milton calls her queen all the time.
does.
So
He does.
people who know Janet know she's the queen. You know, it's the truth, always. So I want to talk about this guy because people don't know the friendship that we had because they just assumed when we came here as a team to be basketball coaches and teachers and all that we knew each other our whole life. We're the same age. He went to a different high school. I went to Lafayette Central Catholic, and he went to...
I went to Wainwright,
Wainwright.
which became McCutcheon.
McCutcheon, yeah. And so we're long story short, but it's true, we're at Purdue. That's where we met. We're back in the old days of Purdue.
Yeah.
And we got to kind of know each other. Well, I student taught at McCutcheon.
Yeah.
And Fred Fleetwood, who was my mentor there,
Yeah.
I said, hey, I got this job at Washington Catholic, and it's cool. And he's like, I've never heard of Washington Catholic. What are you talking about? I said, well, you know, Terry Bourdonnais and all these people braided me down. And it was just, I was keyed out of my mind that this was a possibility. So I said, well, what do I do to start? He says, well, you better get a good assistant coach, okay? Because it's going to be a small school and a big job, and you're also an athletic director, and you're also doing all these other things. He said, you better get a damn good assistant coach. I said, well, I do nobody. I mean, I have nobody that could fill that void of assistant coach. I mean, I would have eventually found some people here, but I never been in Washington my whole life until I interviewed for the job. So Fred said, well, there's this guy named Steve Garrett who comes to all my basketball practice. He was the head coach at McCutcheon. He said he's there, he knows basketball, he charts things in basketball practices, he volunteers to do this, and so I called Steve one time. I said, hey, Steve, what do you think? I'm just got a job in Washington, Indiana. He said, how would you like to be my assistant coach? You know, and it wasn't much of a time thing. I already knew from Fred, I knew Fred, I trusted him. He said he's the guy, and we interviewed a little bit and all this. But he says yes, right?
Yeah.
You know, pretty quickly, he says that we'll do it. So we really didn't know each other very well, but boy, we got to be good friends once we got here.
Amen.
And have never been, you know, not friends since then. You know, there was that void there where I'm running here and there, and you did your thing, and we didn't see each other as much. But it was very apparent that it goes back to the God thing. You said you're really getting into your faith, and we're not the same, as we've all heard. We all have our different gifts. He's got certain gifts that I could never touch close to. And then I had the other organizational gifts that he didn't want to touch. So we were the kind of the dynamic duo of you do this, I'll do that, and we'll meet at the end, and the good things would happen. So with that, I can't thank you enough for organizing this. This is like so cool. And how Janet kept it quiet for 4 months or whatever.
Good liar.
Yeah, she was. After it was all done, when the cat was out of the bag, I was like, honey, you knew about this for 4 months. And she said, yeah, I've been lying to you the whole time. And that's not Janet. She is so truthful. I mean, I'm a little bit on the other side. I mean, if you're doing taxes and all that, she says, well, you know, you got to have these certain things. I said, heck with that. We qualify for it. No, we don't. No, we don't. We got this tax thing. So she's like super honest all the way. So that's the connection we had. And then, like I said, I just want to end with the Joe Todrick thing. WC is a gold mine, he said. And I found that out in the 4 years I was here, and then beyond, you know, because I do believe in the giving back. So I hope I can. Sarah Vogus is here. Sarah, wave. Sarah is one of the, well, she has a title that's in marketing, communications, and all that, which is awesome at Washington Catholic.
Coach?
Yep.
Oh, I coach, so.
They coach. But I got to know Sarah just through just being on this team with Jeff and Toby and all that. And I really met Sarah a year and a half. Remember in the gym, WC
I
basketball
do
game?
remember. I was sitting quietly in
Yeah.
the fans watching the game.
Yeah. And one of the, I think
Hey,
it
who
was,
said that quietly?
yeah. But someone said she works at WC. So I was like, oh, cool, that's pretty good. I want to go meet her. So I went over. She introduced herself. I introduced myself. And I knew right then, and she went to Washington High School, that's fine, we love Washington High School.
Mr. Stallman was my teacher.
Yeah, there you go. And so I knew then that WC currently has some good things going on. Because again, I didn't know all the teachers, still don't know all the teachers, I know some of them. But I know probably Sarah the most. And she's got the passion, she's got the love, she's got the commitment for WC. So again, kind of volunteering in a place with people like Sarah that's like, what do you need? What's, you know, she's telling Father Paul Ferguson that. I'm sure she's just like, I'm here to serve. I want to do it. That's kind of why, you know, I think a lot of us are involved in that. Tim is here, one of my former players. But Tim's a senior my first year here. And great to see you here because, thank you. Last time I saw you was at the basketball reunion. Yep. So Tim was a big part of the start that we had going there. So, but with that, thank you all for this. This is wonderful. You know, I hope you know we can continue to do great things for people, not only here at Washington Catholic, but whatever field you're in. And Sister Yvonne, to have you here is special too, and with Dot. And I tell you, and we told all the stories from the doctor's office. So this is Tina and I. We kind of cross paths a lot for physicals, and that's where sometimes it's good to know someone who has great influence in a area. And in the doctor's office, where all you guys got your physicals and all that, I got to be friends with Mrs. Tina. It's like, hey, can you get these 22 guys in? And sometimes it's like, yeah, maybe, let's see, 3 weeks from now, it'd be like the afternoon. We'd parade those guys in, and Dr. Beck would do his thing, and then Dr. Beck did whatever she told him to do. She said to do it, so we did it. So that was all good. So anyway, thank you all for coming, and have a great evening, and good night.